I'm Allison Moore. I'm the curator of this extravaganza. That's how it's coming to seem to me. I've been doing this for 2 years. Why There Are Words is a nonprofit based in Sausalito, California that has 5 different cities. It's got Pittsburgh, LA, New York, New Orleans, Austin, Sausalito, Minneapolis, Portland. And it's a network of writers, and to give writers a chance to have a tour, if you will, something musicians know all about. So these people are a blend of prose writers, poets, and Gert Warlick is going to do some storytelling and music tonight. And I've done these programs so that I don't have to get up here and talk between each and waste time. So we're going to start with Bronte Treat, and you can read all about her on your program. Thank you so much.
Hi, how are y'all doing? Closer. Is this okay? Wow, I've never used a mic before. When I first got the email from Allison asking to be a part of this reading, I thought it was spam. And I emailed my professor, Mary Helen, who recommended me and asked if it was spam. And she said, Bronte spam isn't usually so specific, right? So I'm very surprised and honored to be here with these other writers and artists. This is called The Father. The father grows softer, sweeter with age. The sound of his rage rounded like the letter O, or a door knob, or a clean plate. Then he starts walking with a cane and a limp, his stride shaved in half, his body no longer foreboding, or like a clean plate or a door knob, or the letter O, his rage rounded with age. Sweeter and softer grows the father, walks with cane and limp, half-shaved in stride, closed gait, a body no longer foreboding. Boy Who Bleeds or Goodbye Girlhood. I've never felt more like a boy than when we rode our bikes through the streets of New Orleans. My body concealed by baggy clothing, my long hair hidden beneath my helmet, we rode. I felt like a brother to Hyatt and Jordan, and with every block we rode, my female form and all of its baggage fell away. I felt my body shift from an object of desire into a machine carrying me from burgers at Camellia Grill to Audubon Park. Here, we stopped to read Breakfast of Champions or Goodbye Blue Monday. We read aloud and passed the tattered book at the end of each chapter. We laughed at the same hearts, aliens so small they fit in a shoebox, and it solidified our brotherhood. Before we left, I went to the bathroom and in my underwear saw the proof of my sex, blood. Blood that boasted, you are not their brother. Blood that reminded me, you are the other. I felt like a fraud, and in a way I was. I didn't like Vonnegut or how Hyatt and Jordan ignored traffic signs, but that's what it takes to be a boy. We stopped at the corner store for tampons and locked our bikes outside. It's like a superpower. What is, I asked, that you don't bleed to death? We walked across the street to Creole Creamery and bought big summertime-sized cones, even though it was January. We sat in silence 3 in a row and savored our boyhood. Kurt Vonnegut wrote that every character needs to want something, even if that something is a glass of water. I want to ride my bike with abandon. This next part I don't remember so hot. The things I believe can't all be true, though one of them must be. I believe that lust is like punctuation, often misplaced and easily modified. that heaven exists only for dead cats and dogs, and sometimes the exceptional rodent, like Nibbles, who was taken too soon. That women can speak without any words. I heard help me in her silence and answered with a dance. That college won't be the best time of my life, but I wish I had believed it then because it's over now. That parents forget big things like birthdays and anniversaries. Parents also stay up in the dark thinking of their children driving drunk. That swimming in cold water heals almost everything. I'm afraid I insist on belief in something to make the sun stretch or compress depending on your mood. This next part I don't remember so hot. I believe we made soufflés. Do I remember this, or is it because mother told me? So much depends upon who your mother is, or isn't, or was. It's called The House Had a Lot of Aspidistra. My mother grew up in the home of quiet time after Sunday church, pressed linens, mothballs in the closet, doilies, and Texas summers without AC. I often think of my mother's childhood home and grow rigid as a ruler. I imagine it was so still that she watched dust catch the sunlight for entertainment, or worse, for company. Perhaps it was beautiful. When there was commotion, it was not the childlike kind of bumped tables, but her mother running into her brother's room with a wet hand towel. She still can't hear the sound of vomit without feeling reprimanded. This one's for my sister and her cat, Cat Stevens, or Yusuf. It's called Losing Cat Collars. My sister's cat came home, but without her collar. She must have been caught on something, but managed to break away. She looks less like a house cat now, without her pink collar that jingles when she walks. I think this must be what a teenage girl looks like to her mother when she comes home late after having sex for the first time in the back of someone's Suburban. And then I understood my mother more. Why she stayed up late for her children to come home. Why is your hair wet? She whispered. I took a shower, and even in the dark, I saw the corners of her mouth turn down. This is my only non-poem for you all. It's a short called A Conversation with Kermit the Frog. This is a Yeti, but I'm not a Republican. On New Year's Eve of 1985, Frances was heavily medicated as Dr. Munoz amputated her right leg. What had begun as an insignificant paper cut from picking up the New York Times was now gangrene, which spread across her leg like wet algae at the bottom of a river. As Dr. Munoz wrapped Frances's perfectly rounded stump with gauze, his stomach growled. He thought of the leftover Christmas tamales in his fridge. His mouth watered. He checked the time, 11:25 p.m. Dr. Munoz lifted Frances's dead leg from the operation table and set it down on a cool tray. A nurse rolled it out of the room as if it were a newborn baby headed to the nursery. On the other side of San Antonio, Lisa sat in the blue light of her TV screen and watched Al Jarreau and Kermit the Frog host the New Year's ball. There it is, Al exclaimed. You're looking at a New York tradition that's been going on for 79 years. It began back in 1904 and was only interrupted for 2 years during the Second World War. Lisa took a sip of her beer and let it idle on her tongue. She thought of her Uncle Paul, who was a prisoner of war, and of the rice he ate, and of the ball not dropping. She thought of bombs dropping instead. She thought of celebratory rice cakes and fireworks going off like bombs. She thought of Uncle Paul's ribs being played like a xylophone. Where do xylophones come from? She asked Kermit the Frog. Southeast Asia, he answered. And rice? Eastern India, I believe. What about atomic bombs? J. Robert Oppenheimer. What did they do with the extra limbs? Lisa imagined graveyards of buried arms and legs. The living brought flowers to their extremities. The living brought half-smoked packs of cigarettes to their hands and warm, fuzzy socks to their feet. Kermit the Frog paused, then said, "There are no limbs left after an atomic bomb." "What is left?" she asked. "Sorry, it looks like your time's up," Kermit the Frog chirped. "Welcome to 1986. The camera panned away from Kermit the Frog to a couple swapping spit to Kool and the Gang singing Old Lang Syne at Walt Disney World resorts. In the morning, Lisa drove to the hospital to see her mother. She sat in the parking lot and watched smoke escape from the rooftop of the Simple building. I bet they burned the limbs, she thought. The doctor cleaned me with antiseptic solution. I thought this was strange because I was mostly dead tissue and dead weight. The first incision wasn't the worst part. It was the breaking of my bone that hurt most. Not because of the sound like cracking ice on top of a spring-born river, but because of the irrevocable step of severance. I was no longer the tibia and the fibula and the foot of Francis, but merely a tibia and a fibula and a foot. Loneliness plagues even the most unassuming characters, like gangrenous legs. As the nurse rolled me out of the room, I wondered if Francis would miss me, if only for my practicality. That would be enough. This is a poem I wrote after my ex-partner gave me his wisdom tooth, which I thought was very naive of him. It's called, "Be careful who you gift your teeth to." Sometimes I am a woman, but more often I am a bitch in her sister's lipstick. After the surgery, you gift me good bone. You gift me relics stronger than bone, dentine. I light candles and lay your teeth at the foot of my altar. Then I pray for cavities, a nuisance, gingivitis untreated. This will lead to heart disease. Weird to think it was once in your mouth, that I once kissed it clean and wet. The funeral. Charles Bukowski wrote, "Stay with the beer. Beer's continuous blood, a continuous lover." Then I wrote, "I met someone else." "Who?" demanded the beer. "Myself," I said. Decided we were done just 11 days before my 21st birthday. On that day, I'll propose a toast to writing and drinking water. But right now, I'm burying my dear friend, beer. Yes, Bukowski, my lover. They say it's the mourning phase. I wonder when my head will stop drifting away like a crane, like a dove, like a crow, like any bird. I wonder when I can go dancing again, have a nice meal, meet someone new, go swimming, celebrate, and how. This is my last poem and a very on-theme poem with alchemy. It's called Quicksilver Bitch. What I've learned most from the men I loved and love is not only my unrelenting protean nature, but also their deep aversion to my unrelenting protean nature. My father named me Mercurial before I knew the meaning of that word. Thankfully, our home had a dictionary, subject to sudden or unpredictable changes of mood or mind. I took it as a compliment of my ability to herd cattle in the morning and train to travel in a spacecraft by night. Each discovery was new, and it was the newness that I loved. To abandon the prior was simple and required no mourning. I hung my chaps in the closet and closed the door. But let us forget about cowgirls and astro girls, because I am a woman now. Now it is not even okay to go to sleep a girlfriend and wake up a poet. Like every woman waiting under the fig tree, I must choose one. Thank you.